Good morning, everyone. I'm going to talk about ecological succession today. Ecological succession. What about ecological succession? Regarding ecology, we told how it is balanced or it's about its harmony, the necessity of its holding harmony. All these details have been told. But after that, we discussed ecological changes, certain problems, ecological balance, how it gets affected at times, and the consequence of such changes we noted down. That was our last topic. The topic that we discussed before this was ecological balance and consequences of change. Consequence of change. Now we can definitely talk about ecological succession. Obviously, it has something to do with the ecological balance and it's affecting by some interruption. Because of certain interruptions, sometimes this is possible. Ecological succession. So, gradual process by which ecosystems change and develop over time. That's what you mean by ecological succession. Gradual process by which ecosystems change. So we know ecosystems, the coexistence of different kinds of living beings as well as their surrounding everything comprises an ecosystem. The very harmonious nature of it makes it a system. And obviously changes are there, both welcome and unwelcome changes. Like some changes are preferable, but some changes are affecting its harmony, its balance, and how it develops over time. So sometimes the change occurring in that, but and again it's not completely destroyed, so that it can develop over time. Take for an example volcanic eruption in an area occupied by many living beings, not just human beings. Think about a volcanic eruption there. Volcanic eruption. What do you mean by volcanic eruption? Agniparvata. See, if it erupts, obviously we have to expect a lot of living beings, living and non-living, living beings and non-living things to be affected. Right. So, think about the volcanic eruption that erupts almost all the living and non-living things all around. But obviously, we have to expect at least after a long time something will replace or some other ecosystem will replace. That is why change and later it develops. How that can take place. So part of the island to disappear. Sometimes the whole part of the island may disappear because of this eruption. Its whole phase changes. You know the lava coming out with that much heat, and no living beings can survive in that heat and lava. It's obviously a disaster. And habitats are constantly changing because of this. Sometimes habitats, certain living beings that occupies there, not just with volcanic eruption. Wherever this ecology, some ecosystems are affected due to some problems, some of the calamities, sometimes human interruptions, sometimes because of human interruptions, sometimes because of what? Natural reasons like natural calamities and all replacing the population. Okay, so these all these possibilities have to be noted down. Then, uh, but habitats are constantly changing. You know, same habitat sometimes undergo changes. Think about a paddy field. Sometimes because of the human interruption, lot of the animal species get replaced or sometimes they go to the level of extinction even. certain kinds of living species which we used to see in the past. Nowadays, those are not there. Some of them are noted down to have extincted or meeting extinction, the point of extinction, Vamshanasha. Right. So continuously those are getting replaced also. And ecological succession is when conditions of the environment change suddenly. When conditions of the environment change suddenly. When it is actually with all the climatical changes and all very simple climatical changes cannot assure or guarantee an ecological succession or cannot always go for an ecological succession. That is just about some changes, some problems in the environment that may affect its balance and all. But for having an ecological succession, it is about the conditions completely changing, which are conditions which are really better for some species to occupy, changes suddenly. Like volcanic eruption, obviously volcanic eruption. Sometimes it's with a forest fire. Think about that. Forest fire. That is obviously a particular calamity, naturally induced calamity. So causing very sudden changes, and all of a sudden, many species, many living beings lost lives. But later, something will start sprouting again. Forest fire, windstorm, human activity, sometimes agriculture. Think about the whole, see some for certain crops, plantation for bringing some plantation and some of the preferable types of crops. People go for complete plowing and erasing certain crops already occupying in the area and changing the conditions and destroying species. Already occupying species are destroyed and you make it better or preferable for other kinds of crops that you opt. Agricultural activities actually replace a naturally already existing ecosystem. And changed conditions destroy species. Obviously, we have to expect these changed conditions destroying species. Then, altering dynamics of the ecological community. Altering dynamics. The ecological community, its nature, its ways are always altering. Sometimes preferable changes, sometimes some of the weather or climatical changes. Certain species cannot afford and they go extinct. They go for an extinction or they that gets extincted. Some of those can survive more in a far better way. Survival of the fittest. It has occurred as a theory. Come as a theory. So here, some species become less abundant. The same thing that I told, like even certain kinds of species, they become less abundant. Abundant means many. So this here, certain species cannot survive that easily or that much. So they become erased out of earth. Even vanish from the ecosystems. That's it. Vanishing completely, going out of the ecosystems. Ecological succession is a gradual and continuous process, and it extends over a time. Not in fine one morning you see the complete replacement of one ecosystem for the other, or complete replacement of one ecosystem with the other. But it is a very gradual, very slow process that leads the communities to be replaced or very drastic changes. Notable changes can occur there. And ecological succession actually until a stable community comes there. That means that can be called a climax community. So you may ask, what about this climax community? After that, so some other calamities may occur, and that climax community also may be replaced. Obviously, that is possible. But actually that climax community is the end product of a successful sequence. After the replacement, very slowly, gradually, some species begin to occupy begin to replace that area. They become stable. Sometimes they become, after a long time, they become fitting enough for the environment. They become fine with that particular ecosystem, and that can be called a climax community because that is the end product of a successful sequence. See, such barren lands, many species come to try their luck, but most see all those cannot completely successfully uh, become stable. Some of those cannot be stable, cannot survive there. Many species try to occupy such areas where ecological already an ecosystem is destroyed, disturbed. But some of those can survive, some of those cannot survive, some of those survive for a time being. But you can find out a very successful climax community that is replacing the whole after a long time because it's a gradual, slow process. Okay, subsequence and yes. So, but when succession starts from barren conditions, yeah, two kinds we can note down. When it starts from barren conditions, you can talk it to be primary succession. Very, as you think about deserted area where nothing has been there, no life could be noted down, and all of a sudden something starts sprouting, and after a while you see a few more species occupying the area. It can be told primary succession, but all other types are secondary successions. Well, why? Because it's already on a previously colonized but disturbed. That's it. Because of some windstorm or uh, forest fire and such other calamities or human interruptions, sometimes from a damaged habitat. Because of that, it's a secondary succession. But what is the difference? Actually, it's quicker than the primary one. Primary one, it doesn't have anything which is contributory to life. Everything from the very beginning. See, from one it has to start. But the other area, something of life may be there, which is already which is destroyed, and something even organic matters, some waste, all those which are really preferable for life to sustain and succeed may be there. Such conditions may be there. Such preferable situation may be there in an already disturbed land. Disturbed, not just land, disturbed ecosystem. So it's quicker than the primary one. അല്ലേ മറ്റേത് ആദ്യം മുതൽ തുടങ്ങണം. അവിടെ ഒന്നും ഇല്ലാത്തടത്തുനിന്നാണ് തുടങ്ങുന്നത്. ഡിസ്റ്റർബ്ഡ് ആയതും അല്ല, അവിടെ ഒന്നുമില്ല. ശരിക്കും ആദ്യം ഒരു ലൈഫിന്റെ ഒരു കാര്യം അവിടെ കാണാനില്ല എന്നുള്ളിടത്തുനിന്ന് തുടങ്ങുമ്പോൾ അവിടെ എന്താണ് വളരെ സ്ലോ ആയിരിക്കും. ദ പ്രോസസ് മേ ബി വെരി സ്ലോ. കുറച്ചായിട്ട് ജീവികൾ വരുന്നു, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ സ്പീഷീസ് വരുന്നു. ഓരോരുത്തരും അത് ട്രൈ ചെയ്യുന്നു വെദർ ഐ ക്യാൻ സർവൈവ് ഹിയർ. പക്ഷെ അത് പറ്റാത്തതൊക്കെയും എക്സ്റ്റിങ്ക്റ്റ് ആയിട്ട് തന്നെ പോകുന്നു. ലാസ്റ്റ് ഒരു സ്റ്റേബിൾ കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റി, ഒരു കമ്പാരിറ്റീവ്ലി സ്റ്റേബിൾ വരുന്ന രീതിയിൽ അങ്ങനെ വരുമ്പോഴാണ് യെസ് ദിസ് ഇസ് എൻ ഇക്കോസിസ്റ്റം എന്ന് പറയാനാവുന്ന അത്രയും സർവൈവിങ് സ്പീഷീസ് അവിടെ വരുന്ന ഒരു മൊമെന്റിൽ നമ്മൾ അതിനെ ക്ലൈമാക്സ് കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റി എന്ന് വിളിക്കും. പക്ഷെ എന്താണ് അതിന് കുറച്ചും കൂടി എന്തുണ്ടാവും. ഇപ്പൊ സെക്കൻഡറി സക്സഷൻ ആണെങ്കിൽ ഇറ്റ്സ് ക്വിക്കർ ആൻഡ് ദ സിറ്റുവേഷൻ ഇറ്റ് ഹാസ് എ ബെറ്റർ സ്പേസ് ദർ because already occupied land with a lot of organic dead waste, everything preferable for life to sprout. Okay, and those after the actually those after felling the tree in a woodland, forest fires, this can be examples for secondary succession. Because falling tree, if you cut down a lot of trees, many species lost that ecosystem. But immediately, once even on the fallen tree, You can see a lot of species, very minute organisms even, coming and occupying. But you cannot expect the birds and nests to be there again. So that also is an affecting. It's a very simple kind of ecological succession. After the falling of some trees, obviously you can know, certain birds. It is an ecosystem. Actually, they are harmoniously living there without disturbing the nature, peacefully well on the trees. But if you cut it down, that very ecosystem is lost. That also is one of the uh, examples. Not that crucial as a forest fire, but not at all crucial like forest fires. That's all. Okay. But forest fires actually destroy a lot of species. That's all with the ecological succession. Now we are going to a major topic, EIA. It's a major, one of the major topics in second module, and it's the last topic also. Environment Impact Assessment. What is that? Environment Impact Assessment. Can be taken as an abbreviation, acronym actually. Each letter stands for some other word. EIA, Environment Impact Assessment. What must be that? What is that? Obviously, you can note down from the terms environment, impact, assessment. So you are going for an assessment of the impact on environment with a certain technique, with a certain methods or a method in one way or other demanding a kind of legal and a very simple procedure. Not simple in the sense of the term, but which is easy if you stick on, if you observe its ways and the principles. EIA is actually making a report, Environment Impact Assessment Report, and with the which it goes, or actually in which context it is needed. That's what we will see now. Okay, just wait. Yes. A systematic identification and evaluation of potential impacts when a project is undertaken. You're going to identify very systematically. It's a thoroughly studied report you are going to prepare. So, this assessment is very important because you're going to study something very systematically, or it will become very important. EIA become very systematic because of the kind of assessment you undertake. So you're going to identify the potential impacts of a project undertaken. Means some of the activities that may or may not have direct impact on the environment. Means something that is tending to disturb the components of the environment. We can note down. Just by closing our eyes we can see, we know that this is going to affect the environment. So it's not about telling like that and completely preventing and completely disturbing the people who are going to undertake that, or completely going to oppose the persons. But you are going to study this. You are going to see how that can be mm, allotted, if possible. Obviously, it's going to be an initiative of a person. Some person wants to go for a business enterprise. Some industry is to be established. Some people want to. Anyway, they go for opting a place, a plot, which is their own. So completely telling adamantly that no, it's not possible that you cannot build anything here. We people have to reside around this area. So your industry, your building will affect us. So this is about again the same, the kind of right. Every people, every citizen has the same kind of right. So it's not blindly opposing some projects. Anyway, that may be bringing some other economic gains to the country. Think that if a nation completely opposes, or if a country opposes all its industrial and such other projects, its own economy will be affected. Think about the job opportunities that can be brought by certain industrial establishments. So, complete shutting down the possibilities in terms of environment impact cannot be there, especially in a growing nation, a developing nation. So, we have to study the impact and we have to see the remedial measures. അല്ലെ കംപ്ലീറ്റ് ആയിട്ട് നമ്മൾ അതിനെ ഒപ്പോസ് ചെയ്യുന്നത് ഒരു രാജ്യത്തിന്റെ ഒരു ഗ്രോത്തിനെ ഒപ്പോസ് ചെയ്യാനാണ്. അതിനെന്തൊക്കെ ചെയ്യാം? What can be the remedial measures? That's what we are going to see. In 1994, EIA became mandatory for certain types of projects. That is it. So not for every simple building, construction, all those, you do not require an EIA. But from 1994 onwards, please be on time. It became mandatory for certain types of projects. See there? That is, project proponents to submit an EIA report. That's what I told you, EIA report or in an EIA report. So management plan and details of public hearing. These are the major part. These comprise the major part. What is your plan? How are you going to use this plot? Think about a person coming with an idea or coming with a plan to build something or going for certain projects. And obviously, on a legal and law-oriented, very systematic planning is demanded on the part of this person. And he or she has to submit the details of public hearing. That is the major part of this. A public hearing is the very relevant part of any EIA procedure or any EIA report preparation. Actually, 30 categories require this. The EIA requirement is noted down for 30 different categories. That is, again, we cannot list out all those, but you can definitely note down a few, and you know, or you can understand why certain categories are demanded EIA report submission, like nuclear power. Definitely we know. Obviously, environment is under threat if you build a nuclear power plant. So how far you can make it smooth, its construction? Obviously, you can give provision. A person can get permission to build a nuclear power plant, but the person should make the plan clear, and he or she has to go for the public hearing. People all around the area are invited. Not all around, it's not going to be a very gathering of people, but people who are representing the people residing there. Maybe the way of procedure may be like this. We never come across this. We haven't come across this directly in our areas anywhere. But this is a procedure, legally bound procedure, where public hearing is there, and certain projects which are obviously dangerous for the environment, like river valley projects. Think about that, river valley projects. We have very live and very recent example here over Kerala, in Kerala, like with 3 of the buildings getting demolished. Why? The certain rules are already there. This much distance. If you go for any construction, it should keep a minimum distance of this much meters or something. But you do not observe that. There was no EIA properly made, or it was in one way or other somewhere overruled. That must be the reason why such problems occur. Thermal power plants and many other 30 plus categories actually come under mandatory EIA report submission. That's why we do not we do not come across. In our areas, we never we do not have, for the time being at least, we don't have some nuclear power plant or something. Hmm? And EIA. So now, project proponents. Now, what are the procedures? Project proponents. They have to select a competent agency to undertake EIA. That is it. A competent agency. They entrust some of the agencies. That is a person, a business person, is going to entrust the agency, some of them to study, to make some, obviously expertise is needed. A single individual cannot go for all these, like a preparation, project planning, making, nothing. So they seek the help of some other competent agency. They apply to the state pollution control board. That is the next procedure. Like they have to apply, seeking permission for such as that is I plan to do this, or plan to build, go for such a construction. It's an application submitted to the state pollution control board, which is there in every state. We can see that kind of a board, an authoritative body, and report to the MOEF, Ministry of MOEF, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, MOEF. Okay, so ministry. It's a ministry actually. It is to be submitted like report. After once the report is ready, you have to submit it to the MOEF, like Impact Assessment Authority. It's an Impact Assessment Authority, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. That's what you mean by MOEF. Okay, and assessment should take place in 90 days. Actually, you should not make the person wait for more than 90 days. All these procedures, it should not be lagging kind of procedure with some red tapeism and so on. It should be fast, hard and fast. Actually, hard and fast. There is no compromise in its quality, in the assessment, such procedures and its demands. Everything is kept intact, but it's a guarantee that it should take place within 90 days. Then, what about the next part? Public hearing. A public hearing at local level. That's it. Obviously, the people around the area have the right to raise their opinion for or against. Okay, even if you take a locality, there may be people who are never concerned about their own environmental threats, the threat posed by the such activities. So some people are obviously there to support them. Some people are there to oppose that, who are more concerned about the environment, nature, balance. So these possibilities also have to be noted down. We cannot expect all of the representatives of the locality will come and oppose the project. Well, we know some people have hold, and some of them even this is the way they actually make it smooth, make their path clear, smooth, because they try to get people to talk for their side, talk at their side. So all these possibilities we have to expect, but still these procedures and its ways should be very transparent and smooth. And opinions for both for and against can be raised. Both for and against. Okay, a set of people from the locality come. They come and say that, oh, we cannot think about this kind of an activity over here. We will have all kinds of environmental issues. This pollution will affect our environment very badly. All those opinions may be expected, but at the same time, we have to expect a set of people who are really happy about such a building, such an industry to be there in their area, because they may be already promised of some job opportunities. So we have to expect this for and against, both kinds of opinions coming in such a gathering, that public hearing, and the decision should be within 30 days. That's why I told you it should not be confused between 90 and 30. This is about the public hearing and the kind of decision making. And the whole procedure should not actually exceed beyond 90 days. Means actually 30 months. Sorry, 3 months. To take an average. So, now, clearance granted a period of 5 years from the commencement of the operation of the projects. Clearance granted. That's clearance granting. Like if any problem, anyway, if it is given a kind of problematic project, still okay, it gets permission to be established. But a clearance certificate is to be there for every kind of such building activity center. Clearance certificate. You might have heard about it. Especially in the case of schools and all, we always hear that. Education institutions, clearance certificates. So in the same way, with the projects, such projects also, we need that. And this clearance granted, actually it is only for a period of 5 years. In every 5 years, they have to go for renewing it. That means, yeah, okay, anyway, clearance is granted. So I can do anything and everything as per my preference. I can go for discharging the waste in my industry to the nearby river or water resources. So that may be the so clearance is for 5 years so that they will be in one way or other aware and they will try to fit into that. So something should be there. Otherwise, people will never be careful or never be concerned about their environment and the possible threats they can make with their own activities, selfish goals, so that such assessment reports or the demand of such aspects are really preferable. Okay, now, yes. Next main topic is 8 guiding principles of EIA. Anyway, we are talking about the kind of report. And what are the 8 guiding principles you have to note down regarding EIA? First one is participation. Actually, timely access to interest parties. You should not make anyone. You should not deny anyone from participating. That is okay. This person, this political party has to stay away, or that particular person has to stay away. Nothing. If a participation, if a person is qualitative enough to participate, there's a person who is a representative of the people over or the person who is coming up with the project. They have to get a chance to participate as mainly in the public hearing and all. So timely access should be there to the interested parties. The transparency, obviously, in any report making of this kind, we prefer a transparency. It is open and accessible to everyone. You should not say that, okay, once an environmentally, a person who is concerned with environment, its protection, comes and asks for doubt or some doubts regarding such a project and its as, possible problems that may the possible threats on behalf of the activities. He or she should get access to that report. The transparency should be maintained throughout. Then certainty. After the report, once okay, this project can be undertaken. That should be after the agreement of all the participants. Like if certain problems are there, some people stick on to a position. You cannot say that the whole procedure of an EIA is clear. Then responsibility for all the parties. All the parties. Now, once that is granted after the public hearing and such other procedures, now the responsibility, the possible problems or the remedial measures, whatever is suggested, to make sure that this is completely taken for granted and it's carried out, the responsibility lies upon all the parties. The persons who grant, the officials who grant permission, the business person who gets the permission, everyone is responsible. Then assessment. The assessment, professionalism and objectivity in its assessment. That is a professionalism, why there should not be any bribery. You know how this red tapeism and all get smoothened because of the certain practices, actually practices within courts that are very prominent in our see official levels. See, sometimes it is bribery, problems of bribery. So a project which is not at all supposed to be sanctioned gets sanctioned. There is no objectivity in that case. It's purely subjective convenience that should not be there. Then, sixth point, assessment process ensuring environment protection should be mainly focused upon that. Assessment process should ensure environment protection. Assessment process and efficiency in dealing with any proposal and decision making. That efficiency is, you think about that should be there in 30 days or 90 days. You cannot go for lagging of procedure, red tapeism. It should be in an efficient manner. All these procedures have to be carried out. Okay, then on time, it should be on time. There should not be any delay or lagging, such things. Decision making is very crucial. That decision making is very crucial in such cases. Giving permission, granting permission. It's a high responsibility. Then information output should be readily usable in planning. That is the information, complete planning. In the very beginning itself, the person has to bring out a plan, and the output should be readily and stay usable. It should be readily usable. It should be very clear cut. Yes, I plan to build. I plan to take this chimney here, or the kind of discharging of the waste material will be in this way. All that should be very clear, so that it should be usable in planning. Its complete building plan itself, it should be usable. Okay, now EIA report. What about this EIA report? What is that? Actually, what is that EIA report? After all this procedure, we go for this EIA report. Making the report. It should be a written report. So there's policies and goals defined by NEPA, National Environmental Policy Act of 1969 actually. NEPA. The certain goals are already defined and should stick. See, such an EIA report, its standard should stick on to what all things are referred, what all ideas are referred, or demands are there according to NEPA, that Policy Act. The description should be there of the site. We have to get the description of the site, the location, and you have to get the clearance. Like this particular building or this construction, this industry is not going to be a threat to any other building or any other people residing over the area. So of the site and the proposed projects, a proper description, a complete description of the proposed project. How are you planning to build, or how the your waste management system may be. All this should be there in that report. And how are you planning to avoid the adverse effects? Some suggestions can be added. Sometimes during public hearing, the people who are there to discuss this may suggest something. You have to build 4 or 5 waste plants, waste disposal plants instead of one, so that it will be easily manageable. Or you cannot throw away the waste or any spot here, any area nearby, so that you have to carry the waste somewhere to dispose. So that may be a suggestion. So everything, avoidable adverse effects are suggested and made sure that those are carried out. പബ്ലിക് ഹിയറിംഗിൽ ഇങ്ങനെ പല സജഷൻസും വരാം. ഓക്കെ, നിങ്ങളെ കംപ്ലീറ്റ് പ്രൊജക്റ്റ് നമ്മൾ ഒപ്പോസ് ചെയ്യുന്നില്ല, വി ഡോണ്ട് വോണ്ട് ടു ഒപ്പോസ് ദ ഹോൾ പ്രോജക്റ്റ്, ഫൈൻ. ബട്ട് എന്ത് ചെയ്യണം, ഇന്ന രീതിയിൽ അതിന്റെ വേസ്റ്റ് ഡിസ്പോസൽ അത് നിങ്ങൾ ഓക്കെ ആണോ എന്നൊക്കെയുള്ള ചോദ്യങ്ങളും അതിന്റെ ഉത്തരങ്ങളും ചിലപ്പോൾ ആ ഒരു പേഴ്സൺ, ഈ പറയുന്ന പ്രൊജക്ട് മുന്നോട്ട് വെക്കുന്ന ആൾ, ദ പേഴ്സൺ ഹു വാണ്ട്സ് ടു ക്യാരി ഔട്ട് ദിസ് പ്രോജക്ട് stays adamant, no, I won't be able to do it in that way, so that the problems may be there. So clearance granting also will be, or the permission granting also becomes very hard. That's the way. So should, and again, short term, long term activity, actually it can be short term activity, sometimes it may be a long term activity. So all kinds of any kinds of projects may be there, not just any industrial establishment. Sometimes it may be very short term activity. Still, certain projects, if that is under the 30 categories of EIA, you should go for all these procedures. But it should be, anyway, it's a report and should be written very clear and in a comprehensive manner. Very clear and comprehensive. It should be very clear and comprehensive, because it's to be presented to the public during public hearing time itself. All these details, description and the proposal, everything is to be made intact. Okay, fine. Now to the last portion, EIA, the sustainable development. Actually, this is a very general topic. Sustainable development, you know how sustainable development is very necessary, not just in certain industrial projects, but all over the globe, to sustain life. Even our development should be there. We cannot always stick to something. We cannot always oppose all the projects or all the industrial establishment or new technological advancements. But it should always focus upon, or should always go hand in hand with, sustainable development. Sustainable. Sustain itself is the kind of enduring, it's a kind of having a stability. Sustained, existence based, it's existence based. So development, meet needs of present generation, obviously to meet the needs of present generation, but without compromising needs of future generation. We are using all the resources without any control for the sake of development of this time, so that future generation, their need, who will meet that. Think about the renewable and non-renewable resources. Certain resources, once used, if it goes out of source, then it will not be replaced. It takes years and years for that to be produced. Petroleum resources, such fuels, it takes years and years, centuries for it to be in that form. So once it is completely completely used and over, the future generation will be running short of resources. That's why Mahatma Gandhi, the quote we took from Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi, we took that quote. For everyone's needs, everything is here, but not for everybody's greed. So without destroying the environment, we have to go for the development projects and plans. Efficient management of natural resources. Efficient management. Natural resources are there, you can definitely use, but it should be in an efficiently managed manner. You have to manage it very efficiently. Okay, so renewable resources, even renewable resources have to be taken or used in a very proper and sensible manner. So then only you can assure a sustainable development. Then technological development. Next, about the technological development. We have to promote that as well. And with a minimum environment hazard only. Technology, with the technology we have e-waste and all. In land pollution you may discuss that. Many other problems, not just to land pollution. So, but with a minimum environment hazard, if you can assure that, that also is part of sustainable development. And EIA, it can assure, guarantee environment proper planning. With the proper planning, if you approach any of these, you can definitely think about or make sure that a sustainable development is going on, and avoiding over exploitations of natural resources. That is the other require another major idea. Avoiding over exploitation. That's a major problem. Over exploitation of every resource. We have the tendency for that. Human beings have the tendency for that. And EIA providing conceptual framework. Actually, EIA is providing a conceptual framework. Even for the projects which do not demand EIA, a person who is going for opting may follow. Yeah, this is needed. So let me ask some persons about their opinion about such a plantation, such a building. So you obviously, a person who is concerned about the surroundings and environment can definitely stick to that framework. Individually stick to the framework. All of them, we cannot expect everyone to do that. At least when you go for such a building or planning of projects or some other technological innovations, development, you can still stick to this conceptual framework and do things according to that. Developmental policies, plans, projects on regional basis. You can build on regional basis. You can build this such policies, plans, projects. Sometimes you might have come across Harida Grama. What is that? Actually, a regional basis. On regional basis, some people bring certain concepts. So others also feel like some initiatives can make people also attracted towards the idea. Plastic Nirodhita Meghala, Nirodhita Panchayat, Plastic Nirodhita Panchayat. Always we see board all over, so that people, when if they have the kind of tendency to throw away plastic, immediately they see that board or all the plastics collected in a particular container. So they also feel that, okay, I also should take part in this. And this is how you can certain plans, certain projects, certain policies, even on a very regional basis, at a very local level, regional level, you can bring changes. And that can assure that kind of a sustainable development. Not just with EIA, but EIA and its whole framework, the concept is very beautiful. Not beautiful, not very smooth, but again, it has an impact of its own on the environmental, the guarantee, the protection, as I say, a sake of environmental protection. You can definitely see the goal of EIA or the role of EIA doing something very crucial and positive. Okay, thank you so much for joining.